Let me tell you a story. It's a story you all know. So all you got to do is kind of go back in your history books in your head, and I'll tell you the story that's familiar, and then I want to tell you the rest of the story. It's December 24th, 1776. You're in the middle of Pennsylvania in the dead of winter. And for those of you who live here, you know, you got to be in the middle of Pennsylvania in the dead of winter on purpose, because it's cold. It's 1776 and you're on the banks of the Delaware because General Howe has just soundly drubbed you and Washington's troops out of New York, shoved you back into Pennsylvania, and you're here kind of reconnoitering and licking your wounds. You're cold, but let's compound the fact. It's December 24th, and come December 31st, exactly 7 days later, you're up for mustering out, and you know 90% of them were. They weren't about to re-enlist. They wanted out, Billy. They said, we had enough of this jazz, man. Now, you got all of the guys mustering out. You got the dead of winter. 33% of them were frostbitten, as a matter of fact, according to fact or according to record. But let's compound it. You're hungry. You didn't just get to eat a big nice dinner at Hershey Hotel. You're so hungry because your food has never even caught up to you and you've been kind of living off the land. Okay, worse than that? What's worse than being hungry? Not being paid. So you not only not haven't been hungry, but you haven't been paid, and you have no hopes of ever being paid, and even if you get paid, it's script, and who knows if it's even worth the paper it's printed on. Okay, you're a manager. Here's your situation. You got a group of highly demoralized, highly hungry, very cold, very underpaid, underfed troops standing there, and now it's your job to pull them all together and put on a little motivational meeting. You say, wait a minute, I never had a problem like that. What do you say to them? What do you say? Oh, well, hey, I didn't even tell you the whole story yet. You're outnumbered by General Howe's army 10-1. And Duke, you got 4 rounds of ammunition apiece. Do you get the picture? Well, there's the picture. General Washington pulled all the troops onto the banks of the Delaware that night, and he basically said to them, he said, gentlemen, tonight we will attack the enemy. Insanity, man, insanity. Well, that's the story, and y'all knew that story. I mean, that's in the history books. When I was going to Texas Tech working on my doctorate degree in English, I had a friend who was working on a doctorate degree in history. And Don and I used to go over to the library and dig into the archives and do our research and our resource and everything. And he ran across something one night that just blew me away. He was studying the memoirs and a personal diary of Washington's, and he ran across this incident that we're all so familiar with. And he found something. Here's what he found. Everything I've translated went down. But in addition, he found out what General Washington's final commandment was that night. There's Washington, standing on the back. I got to tell you that story about it's a little like how you make an opportunity out of a disadvantage. The young lieutenant went running into the captain. He said, Captain, the enemy, they've got us surrounded. The captain said, good, don't let one of them escape. Here's what Washington did. There's the situation. And Don found out that Washington pulled them together, and he did say, tonight we will attack the enemy. But you know what he did in finality? He said, gentlemen, I have one and only one final commandment to make. He said, when you get to the other side, burn the boats. Burn the boats? Are you thinking what I'm thinking? I'm thinking I may be willing to follow that insane man. I may go down and get in that Hertz rent-a-canoe and get over to the other side, but in the heat of battle, when it gets a little tough, I'm going to hide a boat in the bulrushes, and I'm going to run back down and maybe scoot over to the other side. In Washington, standing there saying, burn the boats. That's what they did. The ferocity with which Washington's armies fought that night was unparalleled in American Revolutionary history. They not only won, they took 1,000 Hessians captive. Hell, Billy, it seems to me they had to. I don't know, what do you have to do? Where are you? Here we are, and we're selling cemeteries, and we're selling line crypts, and we're selling, and that's all cool. What do you have to do? All Washington did was what all people do who buy anything, and whenever a decision is made, they basically came to a point of being willing to make a commitment. Period. Without options. See, we all have a great tendency sometimes to cop. We say, well, I'll do this if. And I'll do that if. And I'll do this if. And the if's the cop. How do we really get to the point where you say, hey, I'm going to take the responsibility to make the thing happen, period? I guess that's what marriage vows are all about. Better or worse, rich or poor. They're trying to say, hey, it's not always going to be a bowl of cherries. Well, okay, I knew that. You knew that, didn't you? Didn't you know when you started that you were going to have some days that were really going to be super exhilarating and some days that were really going to be really bad? Didn't you know that? People know that. So what we're really saying is, where's your commitment factor? People, in direct proportion to how well they either commit themselves or have others help them get committed, do they get clear on what it is that they're doing? Because when you get committed, that's when you get on purpose. My question, for whatever triggers it pulls, is how do you commit your people? How do you get your people to where they're willing to commit in terms of their energy, their efforts, their lives, all of that process? How do you get them committed where they are to do your thing? For better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, to where they're saying, I want to do the deal because I want to do the deal. And the only time they won't do the deal, incidentally, as you know, is when they don't want to do the deal. And then it doesn't matter how much money you're paying them or what type of territory they've got or what type of leads they've got or anything else. And that commitment factor sometimes is not just a commitment factor to say this I will decide and this I'm going to do, but then it's got to be followed up day by day by day by additional commitments. It's a little like setting a gyroscope. You can set a gyroscope, but you got to reset it and reset it, and I said earlier, an airplane's off course 95% of the time. It's a matter of readjustment and correction to what is in order to get it back to that point. Question, how do you commit your people? How is not as important as the fact that you do. Because when you're willing to get your people committed, you're basically willing to say, hey, we're taking a stance together. I don't know, sometimes it's easy to say to somebody, well, if it's good, we'll keep you with us, and if it's bad, we won't, there's no real commitment factor there to work through the entire process. So what we're really saying is, how do you commit your people? And I guess there are lots of ways to commit your people. The best way to commit your people is for you to get committed. People follow commitment. People follow commitment more than any other single thing. See, Washington's troops probably did what they did because Washington was committed. Now, if Washington said, boys, you go over there, and when you get to the other side, you burn the boat, we all know what they would have said. There was a, hey, turkey, you want to do that game that way, you come with us. The commitment factor.